Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mental Health Tuesday. It's another Tuesday night, a very good opportunity for us to sit and share on our mental health issues, to have this platform where we can be able to discuss, dialogue, and find better ways that we can manage stress, trauma, and other issues that affect us and our beloved people. My name is Mohammed Ali Mwachausa from SambaSports Youth Agenda. Yet again, I'm going to be your moderator. And we are very lucky to have with us Professor Dr. Halimu Shauri, who is a consultant sociologist. He's many things. He's a mentor, he's a motivational speaker, he's a researcher, and he's a consultant sociologist, and also Dean, Faculty, School of Humanities, Upon University. Very rare moment. Prof, please welcome. Before we allow Prof to speak to us, let's invite God Almighty that He joins us. We thank you, God, for your many blessings. We thank you for the opportunity of this meeting. We thank you for the gift of life and the gift of good health and the gift of sharing this very important topic. We ask of you, oh God, that be with us, nourish us with inspiration, nourish us with patience, nourish us with understanding, that whenever we are discussing this kind of topic, that it may change our lives for better, and that by the end of such a session, it becomes a beginning of a good journey of inspiring and helping other people out there. We pray and believe in your mighty name, oh God. Amen. So welcome. We are 23 of us now, Prof. So it's a good quorum. Before Prof comes to the fore, if you have any experience you want to share, maybe for a minute, or there's a question you want to ask beforehand, or there's an opinion you want to put across, kindly raise your hand, or you may share such a sentiment on the call chat. You are free. Whatever you write on the call chat, we'll be able to lift it and ask it that Prof may give it attention. Anybody is allowed to share, please. On the call chat, I only see Andy Atta. Andy Atta says, hello, still no working microphone on my side, but I'm happy to see people. Andy Indiani with SambaSports. Thank you very much, Andy. Nuri, you have your hands raised. Please take the platform.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think for me, I'll just want to speak on behalf of our brothers and sisters who would not be very familiar with the language of the Queen. So at least leo kidogo tusichanganye ndio wengine wasipite, kwa sababu with how the topic is set, naona tukipitia Uingereza sana badala ya kwamba kwingine. Kwa daktari, tafadhali leo tuchanganyie ndio wengine wasipitwe. Asante.
Thanks, Nuri, for that feedback. I'm sure Prof ni mweledi wa lugha zote mbili. Hata Kidigo ukitaka anaweza fanya vile, tu atapoteza wengine. But I'm sure Prof can be able to mix Swa and English. Anybody else with any sentiment? Thanks, Faiza, for joining. All the way from Tana River. Thank you. We have 6 more minutes for participants to express their opinion. Those are Abdallah. Abdallah, you had risen your hands in the beginning. Would you like to say something? Prof, in the absence of any suggestion that one wants to speak, kindly take it over. You may start with the introduction and then please delve into the topic. Thank you very much, and we are blessed that we have you tonight.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. It is a pleasure to be here and to have this honor to share some insights on understanding the sociology of bitterness as a society. It always gives me pleasure as a lecturer, as a Kenyan, of course, as a director of SambaSport for this particular moment, and to have an opportunity to share knowledge with the members of the public, members of society on such a topical issue within the framework of mental health. I begin by your question to clarify why am I called Professor Doctor. Professor is an award. Professor is not an achievement. You're awarded because of your achievement. But doctor is my title because I got my PhD. So when you get a PhD or when you do medicine, you are called a doctor, but professorship is not an examinable title. It is a title that you are given because of the research you've done, because of the contribution and publications you've done, the amount of research grants you have attracted. So that's why I value that title, doctor, because it is what my sweat defines. And professorship can be taken away. It's an award. People, but they cannot take away my doctorship. And it's also a tradition that is very common among German scholars. And me, I'm sponsored partly for my PhD by the Germans. So it is German tradition. It's not the British tradition. Coming back to the topic of the day, we are focusing on understanding the sociology of bitterness as a society. I think this is a very critical topic, and I'm really excited and wondering, maybe Mohammed will tell us where did he get the inspiration to think this way, because it also caught me by surprise, and I was really excited that, Mohammed is taking us to micro-sociology. You know, sociology has two major branches: macro, where we deal with bigger issues of society, bigger problems, and also micro level, where we deal with specific issues like bitterness. So I was wondering whether Mohammed still remembers his sociology when he was a first year or a second year in the university. Without wasting much time, I am presenting this topic courtesy of SambaSports, and I think my slides are visible. People can follow. I don't have many slides. Interestingly, I have only one slide, but it's very much loaded and very technical. So need people to pay attention to my slide. And I'm saying that thank you very much, SambaSport, for bringing us together to discuss such a wonderful topic that touches all of us, and we'll be able to know at the end of the day how this topic is very, very relevant and very, very current. And the topic is rich in terms of concepts that are loaded. For example, the concept of bitterness. For example, the concept of sociology of bitterness, and we'll bring in other additional concepts so that we can be able to understand very well as we move forward. For us to be able to understand very well what we are talking about, it's always good to have some definition of this concept so that when we speak and move at the same level, all of us, so that we can have an understanding of how these concepts inform the whole presentation that we have. And I start very clearly by looking at the concept of bitterness. And I want to put the concept of bitterness within the framework of anger, within the framework of disappointment, within the framework of resentment, at being treated fairly. Unfairly. Kama umeonewa, you normally feel angry, you normally feel disappointed, and you normally have very strong resentment. So anger, therefore, is a feeling of displeasure. Una raha, yani ufurahi. Whereas bitterness itself is to be fully of hatred. Somebody who's bitter is somebody who really hates, somebody who really resent. Huyu ni mtu mwenye anachukia kabisa, kama ni mtu ama kama ni kitu. So you are bitter about somebody. So it is within the same framework of the concept of bitter, yani uchungu. Nasikia uchungu. Ukisikia uchungu kama umekunywa dawa inakuwa uchungu. But hatred here touches on people, touches on organizations that have not done nice things for us. So anger, therefore, itself is not bitterness, but if anger is not let go, it then, turns into bitterness. If we are angry, kama tumeudhiwa, kama tumechukiwa, if we don't let it go, if we don't forgive, for example, or if we don't just say, okay, it's fine, let us move on, then anger can turn into bitterness. And someone, for example, who is bitter is angry and is also unhappy. So when somebody is bitter, this somebody ana makasiriko, anasema na pia hana raha, because they cannot forget bad things that happen to them. And I think when we later talk about how we deal with bitterness, it is important also to look at these causes of bitterness, the things that happen to us in our immediate past or in our past that, make us bitter. And these things stem from our childhood experiences. For example, when you are growing up as a child, many things may have happened to you that are not pleasant, that made you angry, that made you feel disappointed, that made you feel resent to whatever was happening. It can also be because of, youthful experiences. As youth, we also experience many things that are not good to us. Many things that make us feel angry, make us become bitter. And of course, as adults, because quite a number of us are adults, also in adult life, there are many challenges, there are many experiences that are not good. For example, abuse. Quite a number of people have been abused. For example, in childhood, they are angry, and this manifests itself into bitterness, and this bitterness can be very destructive to the individual, or it can be destructive to society. For example, some were neglected when they were children. They were not given an opportunity to go to school. They were not being fed well. They were not being clothed well. So neglect can be also part of our childhood or even youthful experiences. Or some people also could be taken advantage of. A person can take advantage of you because you're a lady, because you're a weak, because you're from a particular ethnic group. They take advantage of you. It doesn't feel nice for someone to take advantage of another person. Or even very simple, by the way, people can make harsh comments, especially this is in relationships, in households, in spouses, between spouses, the husband and wife. Sometimes you can make comments which are very harsh. Some men, think that to be real man, you have to be harsh. And when you're harsh and you give harsh comments, this can also generate anger and disappointment and resentment. And it's very interesting if your partner will be angry, disappointed with you, and is very full of resentment of you. So when we bring the whole subject of sociology of bitterness, I think it is important to know what sociology is all about. Sociology basically is a science of society and development. And as a science of society and development, it focuses on social problems. And of course, bitterness is one of the social problems. But sociology focuses on social problems within the framework of what we call interactions or social interactions. Social interaction is actually an interaction, or it's a mode of engagement that involves two people or two or more people. So for sociology to begin to be understood, you need at least two people. We call it a dyad relationship, or three people, a triad relationship. So when you have two people, a dyad, or three people, triad or more, already you are talking of interactions, and sociologists are interested. And these interactions, for example, they take place in 5 modes. And one of the very clear mode of social interaction, we call it cooperation. For us to do anything in life, in social life, in economic life, in political life, we must cooperate. I was asked by SambaSports to present on sociology of bitterness. I have cooperated. You have seen the advertisement from SambaSports to join this meeting. You have cooperated. That is interaction. We are interacting. But in the course of cooperation, bitterness can be generated. When we cooperate, sometimes we can say things We can do things that are not pleasant to others, that can anger other people, that can disappoint other people, that can lead to bitterness. Interactions also take place in competitions. So the second mode of interaction is competition. And when we compete, also bitterness. When football teams compete, when boxers fight in a competition, students in college, in schools, they compete, they also generate a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, and this brings sociology at the core of understanding such kind of engagement. Conflict itself is a third mode of interaction for sociologists. When people are involved in conflict, that is automatic. You can even see that there is anger in conflict. In conflict, you can see there is disappointment. That's why people are raising up and they want to resist. That's people raise up and they want to disagree. So conflict also is another mode of social interaction where bitterness can be generated. The fourth one is social exchange. Social exchange is where we are doing business, where we are exchanging greetings, where we're exchanging words, where we're exchanging pleasantries and unpleasantries. Sometimes we exchange things which are not palatable, things which cannot be, accommodated or tolerated by others. And in the exchange either of words, in the exchange either of goods and services, hate and anger can be brewed. And that, of course, can lead to bitterness. And of course, finally, a mode of social interaction that sociologists focus on is accommodation, where we are supposed to accommodate each other. We are not 100%. We are not all perfect. We have our own weaknesses. And one of the key components of social interaction is for us to accommodate each other. But when we accommodate each other, it doesn't mean that you are good to me or you are good to the other person. You have your own weaknesses, but I tolerate, I accommodate those weaknesses. And sometimes we have to accommodate those weaknesses for us to be able to engage and for us to be able to move forward. So interactions in the 5 modes, cooperation, competition, conflict, social exchange, and even accommodation gives rise to relationships. It gives rise to relationship where now we make relationships at the family level, where we have relationship at the friendship level, where we have relationship at colleague level, whether it's at the workplace, for example, professional relationships, and also client relationship, like doctor-patient relationship, like, a lawyer-client relationship, teacher-student relationship. In these relationships also, a lot of bitterness is brewed. And it is important to take note of these relationships. In fact, nowadays, a lot of bitterness is brewed around the family. Mnyumbani. Watu majumbani, they have a lot of issues. And these issues, generate into a lot of hate, generates into a lot of disappointments. And some people have even reached a level of trying to kill each other. So it is important that I say, don't hurt. Don't hurt. Don't feel hurt inside. It is important to find a way to forgive. So this is one of my take-home message. Hate will be there, anger will be there, bitterness will be there, disappointments will be there, resentments will be there. These are part of life. And these parts of life, we must not, put them in our heart so that we are hurting inside and we don't find an exit. We don't find a ventilator so that we can be able to let it go and be able to forgive. So behavior, for example, can take 2 folds. There is behavior which is towards happiness or happiness behavior, and happiness behavior is learned. The same way there is also bitterness behavior. We also behave when we are bitter. So when we look at behavior, we look at it like a coin. It has 2 sides. Happiness, when you are happy, how do you behave? And when you are bitter or when you are angry, how do you behave? So how do we know that you are angry? Or how do we know that you are bitter? It is important to look at certain things that helps us to know that someone is bitter. So signs of bitterness. One of the signs of bitterness is imaginary conversations. When you have imaginary conversations, uko na mikutano wewe peke yako, wewe mwenyewe, you're having meetings with yourselves, imaginary conversation. When you replay conversation or experience over and over again, Huyu aliniudhi sana yule. Aliniudhi, you repeat it over and over again, know that you are bitter. Feeling of need to tell someone what they did to you. You feel like, nikimwona nitamwambia. Feeling of need to tell someone what they did to you. When you are easily offended by other people, you are also bitter or you are angry. When you are easily, your threshold for holding things, you are easily offended, you are also bitter. You need to know that you need to do something. Strong negative emotions or strong negative emotional reaction to things people say or do around you. When somebody does something, you are strongly, having negative emotions. You want to resist, you want to oppose, you want to do something, you want to block it. When you can also remember the details of bad things. When you remember as if it happened yesterday. Sema nakumbuka kama jana, aliniudhi sana. Nakumbuka kama jana. So when you start saying nakumbuka kama jana, or you are remembering bad things all the time, things that happened months ago, things that happened years ago, you still remember them, then you are bitter. Or when you keep a list of offenses, jana ulinifanya hivi, juzi ulinifanya hivi, na juzi ulinifanya hivi, unafikiria mimi ni mjinga, that is a sign that you are bitter. Why do you keep a list of offenses of other people? So it is important that you take note of these signs so that you can also do your own self-evaluation and also do evaluation for other people so that you can be able to help. Kusaidiana lazima uwe kwanza unajua sababu ni nini zenye zina cause bitterness, and then ishara ni zipi, signs of bitterness, na ishara ndio hizo tumezizungumza. Lakini haya mambo yote, all these things happen in a process we call socialization. Some people call it a theory of sociology, the theory of socialization. Socialization says that we are not born with the knowledge and skills that we have. We are not born happy, or we are not born bitter. We learn happiness and we learn bitterness through socialization. So bitterness behavior and happiness behavior, they are all learned or acquired through socialization process. When we are born, we are tabula rasa. We don't know anything. Slowly by slowly, wazazi wanatufundisha baba, mama, tamu, raha, uchungu, bitterness, tuna learn. So we learn. So we have learned happiness behavior, and we have also learned bitterness behavior. But what I want to say is that we have no problem for you being happy. So learning happiness behavior is good for everyone, but what we want you to unlearn, because if you can be socialized to bitterness, you can also be re-socialized to happiness. We can change that socialization. So the good news is that socialization has a counter process called re-socialization, which means you can unlearn what you learned. So if you learned bitterness, we can help you to learn to be happy, or to learn to stay away from bitterness. And I think it is important that we also know the dangers of being bitter. When you are bitter, it makes you ill. The whole concept of mental health that Muhammad started with, you become ill. People who are bitter, they are sick people. People who are bitter, they have poor metabolism. You cannot even digest properly. Medical research has shown us that people who are bitter, they cannot digest properly. Unaanza kukiungulia, unaanza kufanya sijui niko na ulcers, sijui niko na nini. So metabolism is affected. Why be bitter? So that you cannot digest your food properly and enjoy the nutrients that come with it. Your immune system is compromised. If you are bitter, your immune system, you challenge the chemical balance in your body, the homeostatic balance in your body, and then you get frequent attack of small infectious diseases here and there. Your organs also may not function well. But what is important for me as a sociologist is bitterness. The danger of it is causing social malaise. Social malaise is social disorganization. Social malaise is, disruption of social life. You're not happy. Your relationships, disruption of your social support system, disruption of your social network, disruption of your social capital. So if you are a bitter person, you remain a lone ranger. If you're a bitter person, you destroy all the social support networks and systems and capital that you need for you to be able to be a better person. And of course, mental health issues, stress, depression. In other words, you are destroying yourself. You can destroy yourself, and the bad news is that you can actually, if the worst comes to worst, if you are bitter, you can direct that bitterness inside yourself where you commit suicide. You commit a type of suicide we call egoistic suicide. And you can also commit another type of suicide, we call it anomic suicide. Anomic suicide is where you lose direction. You see there is no direction, there is no guideline, there is nani hakuna mwongozo, so afadhali ufe. So death becomes more important than life. So afadhali nife. Yeah? Afadhali. So bitterness can lead to self-destruction. It can destroy you, it can kill you, but you can also kill others. I think you've had many people who are bitter that have killed their wives or their spouses, they have killed their children, and they have killed themselves. You have also seen children who kill their parents, and they also kill their siblings, and they also kill themselves. So bitterness can be directed inward where somebody commits suicide, or it can be directed outward where somebody commits homicide. So that is the worst case scenario when we talk of bitterness. So I want you to break bitterness. I want you to break bitterness because bitterness has those dangers, and we don't want to live in a society with all those dangers. But how do you break? So breaking bitterness requires certain things that are important that we need to put in place. And one of those things that we require to break bitterness is to recognize first that you are bitter. You cannot tackle a problem if you don't know the problem. So the first thing we need to do is, as individuals, as a society, as a community, we must recognize that you are bitter or we are bitter. Tunasikia machungu, tunasikia tuko disappointed as a community. Unasikia you are disappointed as an individual, and they have given you the signs of how you can know you are disappointed or you are angry or you are bitter. So first thing first, to break the bitterness cycle, first you recognize that you are bitter as an individual, as a people, as a community, as a group. Secondly, you must go through the whole process we call the grieving process. I began by saying don't hurt, forgive. So the grieving the heart. When you are feeling hurt, when you are feeling disappointed by your husband, disappointed by your wife, disappointed by your children, so you need to go through the grieving process. And the grieving process, I think Mohammed will give us another opportunity in another webinar so that we can talk about the grieving process. But for today, I'll just mention that the grieving process is a 7-stage process, and one of the stages is shock. The first stage is shock. When you are disappointed, you go into shock. When you are angry or you are bitter, you go into shock. Yani yule anaweza kunifanya hivi yule. Even you can use abuses. Mshenzi yule, jinga kabisa yule. How can he do something like that to me? So you are shocked. But the second thing, from shock, you go into a stage of bargaining where you are in denial. You start denying, say, lakini nafikiria akili yake labda si nzuri. Nafikiria labda pengine amelewa. Nafikiria you are in denial. And of course, you go to anger, and then you go all the way to depression, which is the longest and the worst. If you fall into depression in the grieving the heart, you are going into a deeper mental problem that you need to struggle. So don't allow yourself at any one point to sink into depression. It is the longest and most difficult part. And then you move to acceptance that, yeah, these things happen. It also happened to so-and-so. It also happens to so-and-so. And you start processing your grief so that you do your evaluation and you get out of the problem. So from recognizing you are bitter to the grieving process, and of course, interrupt your thoughts. Develop a habit of interrupting your thoughts. Don't allow your thoughts to go negative. Try to block your thoughts streaming towards negative side. Jaribu kupinga fikra mbovu, fikra mbaya. Unaweza kuzipinga kufuatana masuala ya kidini. Wale Waislamu unaweza kutawadha, unaweza kuswali, unaweza kujijumuisha na watu wengine. Interrupt your thoughts. Do not allow yourself to go negative. If you go negative, there is a threshold that will sink you into depression, and it will sink you into serious sickness. Also, break the cycle of shame and guilt. Na watu wakijua, stigma, discrimination, it is shameful. Watu wakijua watafikiriaje? Nafikiri itakuwa, watu watanisema. People will not feel that I'm a good person. You need to break that. For you to be able to have a solution out of bitterness, break the cycle of shame, break the cycle of guilt. Why feel guilty? Things happen, and sometimes the people say shit happens. You have to deal with that shit and get out of that problem so that you can live a happy life. Finally, I want you to break the fantasy cycle. The fantasy cycle, when you come from my community in Kwale, there's a place called Mabungo. In Mabungo, they make mandazi. They make mahamri. They say mahamri ya Mabungo yanajifanya yenyewe. So fantasy cycle. Mamuriga Mabungo, gazienda genye. Mohamed amesema, I can present also in Kidigo. So Mamuriga Mabungo kanda zienda genye. Yani donuts or mandazi from a place called Mabungo, they make themselves. That problems, bitterness will go away by itself. Anger, hatred, disappointment will go away by itself. You need to break that cycle. You need to break that cycle. Things don't go away by themselves. What you need to do, you need to act. Action. Action is important. You cannot stand and say things will fix themselves. Things will never fix themselves. You need to act. You can act by ignoring. You let go of grudges. And say, acha tu ikae. Let go of grudges. And some people talk of a very interesting concept. They call it GOMO. GOMO means get over it and move on. G, forget. O, for over. M, get over it. M, for move. And O, move on. So you get over it and move on. After all, there's life to live. Life is bigger. So let go of grudges. Forgive. I started with that. Forgive. Of course, you may not forget, but forgive. Forgiveness is very good healing process for being bitter. If you can't do all this, seek professional counseling. Go to a counselor. You can go to a spiritual counselor. You can go to marital counselor. There are different types of counselors who can help you get out of these challenges of being bitter. If you're being bitter at work, there are guiders and counselors. If you're being bitter because of religion, there are spiritual counselors. If it is your marital relationship, there are marital counselors that can be able to help you, give you correct advice. Self-grieve and heal. For if you can, there are some people who have very strong personalities. They can grieve quietly, slowly, between themselves. They don't want anybody to know. They go through the grieving process. I've told you it's a 7-step process, and they heal by themselves. If you can, but it is very dangerous. If you cannot, please seek professional help. Lastly, I want to say that we must know how to handle handling the bitter people. One, do not confide in them. Bitter people are very dangerous people. We have given you the signs of who they are. If you have noticed them, our warning, our advice is do not confide in them. Two, don't be their shoulder to cry. Don't provide them a shoulder to cry. They are bitter. If you let them cry, you are increasing their movements towards depression. Don't be rude to them, but don't agree what they suggest, what they say. They'll start telling you that maisha ni magumu bana, fadhali kufa. So don't agree to them, but don't be rude. Sasa kusema bora kufa, wewe ni mjinga nini? Wewe ni mshenzi. You are adding insults to injury, and it can lead to more damage. Talk to them about being bitter and how they can get out of bitterness so that you can be able to help them move forward. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think I need some opportunity for people to interact with the presentation and be able to ask questions. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Halim Shauri. What an amazing and moving slide. I think we need that slide. Very engaging. The call chat has been simmering with movement and a lot of anecdotes. So let's open it up for members of the forum. Anyone who wants to say something, you can say it on the call chat, or you may raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. I can see Cephas, I can see Mwanaisha. Let's start with Cephas. Your 1 minute, please.
Yes, Mohammed, I just want to congratulate and thank Professor for that great presentation. You know, when he talked about having a mkutano with yourself, and just a few minutes I had one with myself, was the time I realized, kumbe, I'm living in bitterness. I never knew this before, but kumbe nimekuwa mgonjwa for some times. And so one of the things ambao pia naona inanichanganya sana, the guilt of shame. I think this is a challenge sometimes on my side. So I'll try to follow up the steps that he told us. But very amazing. Thank you, sana Daktari Professor.
Asante. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You don't need to be guilty about life. If it's a mistake that you're angry, you're bitter about, the mistakes happen. We should use mistakes to learn. We should use mistakes to draw best lessons out of them so that we can do things better in the future. We should not stick to the past because we made a mistake or somebody made a mistake on us. Don't be guilty. Learn from it. Don't be ashamed. Learn from it and move on. If you didn't do it, then you will not have learned. So take it positively and move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Two more hands. We have Mwanaisha, and then after that, we'll have Rashid Sarai. Mwanaisha, please, your 1 minute.
Okay, mimi wallahi Profesa umenisaidia sana, kwa sababu there's a case that I'm handling na mwenye na muhandle ako bitter ile mbaya. So because imefika to an extent I was giving up, like I cannot handle this anymore. Nimejaribu na I'm trying my best nimsaidie, lakini naona hakuna mahali naelekea. But now with the knowledge that you have shared here, it has really helped me. I won't give up. I will keep on. Na inshallah ukizingatia venye umetupeleka katika hii sociology of bitterness, so many of us, so many people are operating at a bitter level of their life. Everyone anakona reaction because of the bitterness they're carrying in their chest, they're carrying in their lives. Na tumeishi, ndio maana a lot of things are happening ni kwa sababu people are so bitter. But thank you so much for this, and I hope wale ambao tuko hapa ndani, what we have learned tutaenda kusaidia wenzetu. The link hii recorded session tuweze kuishare kwa sababu so many people are dying with bitterness. And I think imefika to an extent ya kwamba tuweze kusaidiana kwa sababu wengine tusha give up. Some of them are family, friends, family members, and you think huyu msiezi kumhandle, tunamwacha hivyo. Ndio pale watu wanaishilia kuingia kwa depression, wengine wana commit suicide and all that. But thank you so much. I have the case that I'm handling now, imenipatia tena motisha mpya wa kuweza kuhandle the case, and I hope one day I'll come and report to you kwamba I was successful. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much for those kind response. We should not give up on our friends, on our family. We should try our best, because if you don't do, they may slip into depression, they may slip into drug abuse. Quite a number of cases that you have of drug abuse, by the way, it's just bitterness. Those young people doing heroin, doing cocaine, it's not that they're doing it for fun, it's bitterness. If you talk to them slowly, go back into their past, you will hear very interesting experiences. I've worked myself as a rehabilitation person for MEWA, and when I used to have discussions with the heroin users in Mtopanga, Mombasa, I used to hear very interesting, very emotional, heartbreaking stories that made some of these young people, so that life is not meaningful and therefore they can choose the path of distraction. So thank you very much. Don't give up. Try. If you think that you are challenged, refer for professional help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maisha, and also thank you, Prof. 3 more hands. We have Rashid Sarai, and then we have Director Hassan Maimel, and then Aziza. Rashid, please, you're 1 minute.
Okay, thank you, SambaSports. Mine is just an appreciation because this session has been very transformative to me, because I've always been bitter, but not knowing that I'm bitter. So thank you, SambaSports and Prof. Shauri for this session, and I hope I'm going to make use of the new presentation and help me a lot and engage the people who I'm going to interact with. So thank you, and I expect more session, and I'll be eagerly waiting for the session of grief. I hope we'll hear from you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rashid. You don't have to be bitter. If you are bitter, we can also tell, by the way, by looking at your face, by looking at your dispositions, we can know you are bitter. And when you are bitter, you just grow old very fast. Some of us, when we tell you how many years we have, you'll be surprised. But it's just, anger management. We need to teach ourselves how to manage anger so that anger does not destroy us.
Prof, the many things you are doing on this platform, but utaacha mburuga, please. Hiyo mburuga ya kujua watu wenye wako vita na madai hiyo tuachane nayo. Please. Director Hassan, it's your platform. Okay. Aziza, your hand was up. Aziza, please, can you take the platform as director prepares?
Habari zenu.
Zuri.
Aziza hapa, nashukuru kwa kupewa hii chance. Just want to thank you, Professor, so much, and the SambaSport for organizing this session. However, my input will be hii anger management, hii bitterness iko kila mahali, si kwa majumba peke yake, mpaka sehemu za kazi unajipata uko kazini, lakini there is a lot of bitterness, and sometimes in a situation like teachers you realize some past few days, si terms zilizopita, tumeona watoto wakichoma mabweni, wakifanya fujo shule, walimu wakipiga wanafunzi kupita kiasi ya kuwa kumekuwa na sintofahamu baina ya walimu na wanafunzi, mara walimu kwa walimu. Hii inamaanisha kwamba shule tu ni sehemu katika mambo ambayo, yani katika area ambazo zimejionyesha kuwa hii bitterness iko kwa society. So I think it will be good if Professor and your team could at least organize. I know you are a BOM. I think you are BOM chairman of Bahari Girls, and I know you know a lot about these things. And I'm sure in your duty, you in the line of duty, you have come to realize that these things exist, not only in the other areas at home, but even in schools, even in other sections, in hospitals, where we have colleagues versus colleagues, colleague versus, for example, doctors versus nurse, doctors versus the patient. And you realize that people are mishandled because of either the bitterness of the people they expect help from or the working area. We have toxic, even other relationships. I think this is a disease that is catching up with a lot of us. I could see this from the reaction from even the session we just had. People are just confessing that they have been having this bitterness without realizing.
Thank you very much, Aziza. We have lost you, but I'm sure Prof. can help you.
It. And if maybe we had not gotten this opportunity, can you hear me?
Yes,
Now.
yes, Aziz.
Yeah, maybe if we had not gotten the chance to listen to you, Prof, would have not noticed that we are suffering from this bitterness. I think this should not be the last, Professor. Thank you for the good work.
Thank you very much, Aziza. And Aziza is very
Yeah,
right,
good luck.
by the way. That's why I started by getting amazed where Mohammed picked this topic. People are bitter. People are bitter everywhere. Even people are just, managing impressions. When you meet them at work, they are laughing, they are greeting you. Don't think they are happy, my friend. They are bitter and they may be bitter at you, but they're trying to manage their bitterness. People are bitter. There are so many schemes: bitter at home, bitter at school, bitter at work. In fact, nowadays, I'm even surprised because families, people are so bitter within families. Now, if your brother and your sister and you are bitter, then where else will you not find bitterness? So Aziza is very right, and this is very timely topic, and we should be able to escalate this discussion so that we can be able to benefit more people, so that they can know themselves and they can be able to help others. Thank you, Aziza.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Aziza, for that quite extended but very important input. We can only have time to take two more feedbacks. Director Hassan Bondo, please, if you may, and then Collins Oteo. Director Hassan, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
I don't want to take much time. A lot have been said. Just appreciation for the platform and appreciation for the presenter. Just an add-on, I'd like to urge my colleagues here that we cannot avoid disappointments in this world. So, but we need also to appreciate the fact that disappointments are there to be appreciated and be perceived as a first step of the process of learning, or rather gaining experience that will make a better choice. So if you perceive a disappointment as a step for you to learn and gain experience, I think it will slightly manage your anger or bitterness towards that situation that has led you to that. Secondly, we always lack the fact that we have a religion to rely on or to refer to in case of issues. So always go back to the religion. I believe all religion have situations. These situations have been handled by the great prophets, great scholars, and references and inspirational quotes from the Bible and great scholars on situations can help, maybe slightly, but they can have a base of a help towards bitterness. Most of us, when we get disappointment, we just pray to God to get relief. But we don't go deeper and search for references on those situations and how those religious leaders did to help them getting out of those kind of situations. So let's pray, but beyond praying, let's go deeper and get some experiences with our religious leaders. And we should always learn to forgive ourselves. The moment you go to your head teacher or to your senior lecturer or professor with a mistake and the lecturer says, I forgive you with all my heart, that kind of feeling when you are going outside of that office, the satisfaction that you have should be applied to yourself. Forgive yourself if a situation has disappointed you because of your own mistake or somebody else's mistake. Just forgive yourself and enjoy that moment of forgiving yourself. In that, you will enjoy also that feeling of refreshment from a bitter situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. I think Director has put it very, very well. Disappointments is not an end in itself, but it is an opportunity to learn and do it better next time. Steve Jobs, when he was leading his experiment to develop a bulb, he made 99 what we would call mistakes. He tried to make the bulb 99 times and he could not succeed. But the 100th time he succeeded. But when he was asked by the journalist that you failed 99 times to do a bulb and only one time you succeeded, Steve Jobs said, no. I learned 99 ways of not making a bulb and one way of making a bulb. Look at those words, very powerful words. Converting the mistakes that should make somebody a failure, that should make somebody angry and bitter, into lessons that he learned 99 ways of not making a bulb. Not a failure, no, he didn't fail, but he learned. So let us use disappointments, let us use bad experiences as lessons that we can be able to move forward. And as Director puts it, you will always be angered, you will always face disappointments, because life is interesting. Even in religion, in Islam, they say things were created in twos, day and night, bad and good, sweet and bitter, happy and etc., etc. Even seeds, dicotyledon and monocotyledon. So there will always be disappointments. Learn how to move on. Learn how to manage disappointments. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Prof. We have actually run out of time. It's already 1 minute past 9. But of course, you offered, Prof, and we were coming for you. Kindly, if you may, next week, we can delve into the topic of the process of grieving. If it's okay with you, Prof. Thank you very much. That's affirmative. And as we finish for 1 minute, Prof, Andy Atta, her microphone is not working, but she posed a question on the call chat. After a long message of appreciation to this topic and the presentation, she asks, where do you separate bitterness versus resentment? Where do you separate bitterness versus resentment? If you may do that in 1 or 2 minutes, Prof, we'll really appreciate.
Thank you very much. Sometimes it is very complicated to separate these concepts because they are synergistic. Anger, bitterness, and resentment. You look at them as separate, but the relationship is so intertwined that sometimes they are used synonymously. That when somebody is angry, that somebody is bitter, and that somebody has a strong resentment. So, in terms of dictionary meaning, they may be different. You know, anger is something that is slightly different from someone being bitter. Being bitter, you hate. You're not only angry, but you hate. You're bitter, you hate that particular person, and you don't want to see them. You have resentment. But they are connected and they are synonymous for easy of understanding and for easy of communication and interaction. So sometimes to draw the line is not easy, but it can be drawn for academic purposes. But somebody is angry, somebody is bitter, somebody has strong resentment, we are all talking about the same thing. Or some people also talk nowadays of toxic. Somebody is a toxic relationship, toxic, it's toxic. It's poisonous. It's something like that. Thank you.
Wow, what a wonderful night Prof has given us. And we had no doubt when we invited you to this platform that we're going to give it your best. In our interaction on WhatsApp yesterday and today, there was all that commitment that it's going to be a wonderful day. And I just want to say that it is beyond what we ever chatted about. So thank you very much. We are really blessed that we had you on this platform. Kindly allow us to call on you many more times, because the society out there needs you, needs your experience, needs your knowledge, needs your skills. We're here to offer the platform, and kindly, when we beckon, please adorn the platform and heal our people. Thank you very much. And everybody who has logged in today, this could not have been as beautiful as it is if it were not for you. We are all in this together, and it is only made successful when you commit your time and be here with us. Thank you for your comments, thank you for encouragement, and thank you for your questions. It's a lovely night for all of us. See you next Tuesday, inshallah, God willing. Adios. It's been a wonderful moment with you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful night. Thank you.